Could you share with us some thoughts on the role of technology in marketing and its future role as you see it?
Yes, well, there are new technologies that I have talked about to people. For example, we can prepare a customer database with a lot of information about individuals. In fact, a company called Tesco, which is well known as a supermarket, gives its buyers a card, and it records when they buy things, everything they bought. So with that technology, you can find out who the new mothers are. You can find out who the wine drinkers are. You could put them together in social situations as a courtesy for them to know each other, help each other. And so Tesco, as one example, is using this rich database to have invitations and parties and meetings for different people, which builds a strong relationship. That's called customer relationship management. In addition, there are mathematical and statistical techniques that allow us to detect patterns, particularly segments and trends, taking place in our customers that we couldn't probably find or notice if we just looked at raw data. And I won't discuss the particular trend techniques.
Another trend that we have mentioned is globalization. There is a huge pressure to become global, and not everyone can do it. Not everyone has the right resources to do it, especially this being true for smaller countries like Croatia. Do you think that firms operating on the local market can be competitive coexisting together with firms that operate globally?
Well, there's two problems that firms on the local level face. One is defense and one is offense. The defense is they know that big companies will come into their country. McDonald's comes in, Walmart might come in, IKEA might come in, and it could hurt a lot of companies that are local which don't have either the resources or their quality isn't as good. I'm not so upset with good multinationals coming in because they also give you something. They give you training, they set higher standards and so on. The other thing is, can smaller and medium-sized companies operate not only in their own country, but their neighbor countries? Can they offer something where they are the best at that for the region? And one of the answers is to be a niche company, and we use the word niche very precisely, is to be a company that is a specialist in something that not only does your country buy, but the region buys, and in fact the world buys. So I would recommend for medium and small-sized companies to develop and sense some need that isn't being well served and that can be served by one of your companies.
Could we even go so far and say that maybe even marketing has had an impact on technology?
Well, you know, every new technology, like let's say a CAT scan, which General Electric will make for examining the body, something new like an iPod, those are new technologies. And of course, they're not going to succeed without buzz. Now, by buzz, I mean the creation of talk, not only ads, but stimulating users who like the new technology to talk favorably about it. So technologies themselves that are new depend on marketing. They don't just grow by themselves.
What do you think are major challenges that transition countries face in terms of marketing?
Challenge number one, putting a reputation on the country for quality or service or both. We think of some countries like Japan as the place to go for electronics. We think of some countries as the place to go for watches, Switzerland, candy for Switzerland. And we think of some countries to go for electronics and other things like Japan. We would like each country to develop an identity, which is really called country branding or nation branding. But you don't do it, it doesn't happen by itself, although it could. Certain companies could just on their own do very well, and it builds up the image of the nation. But I like a nation to sort of get into nation building and figure out what is it going to be good at in the future. How is it going to generate revenue for its people? Croatia, for example, has wonderful waterways, on the ocean, and they could be great at tourism, and they were historically. And that is one thing. But, you know, good tourism doesn't happen by itself. Who do you want to invite? You want people who come on big cargo planes and they spend one day and they leave? Or do you want what we call class tourism, not mass tourism? People who really like the sea and the boats and they can enjoy it. And what have you prepared in the way of hotels for them and things to do? But tourism is only one way to build a nation. We want to ask what foods you might make that would be, you know, what beer might be good, what dishes you might serve. So I would say that the nation has to sort of figure out what it's going to be good at and put some resources to support those who can develop that. Some CEOs, heads of companies, want some marketing, but their understanding is it's just advertising and selling. Some know that it's more. It's actually selecting some products, pricing them, figuring out the best channels, and promoting. There are some CEOs who are even broader. They say, I need a marketer to help me segment the market, figure out the best markets to go after, help me build the right products for those markets, and so on. So one of the first questions is, what's your president like? Does he understand marketing? Now, if you're working for someone who only thinks marketing is marketing and sales, unfortunately, he's not using his talent. He's not using the talent he hired because he's limiting them to some communication. And I call that 1P marketing, just promotion. I want marketing to participate in shaping the strategy, in finding new opportunities, and that's what's happening in the best of our companies anywhere in the world, and that's the issue. It is much more. I'll tell you why marketing is much more than advertising. Marketing starts before you have any products. It's to search for great ideas and invent good things that people need and want. The advertising comes much later after you found something to offer people and you want them to know about it. And by the way, there's new ways to communicate without advertising. If you develop a good product, you could use public relations, because if it's an interesting product, there could be stories about it in the newspaper, on the talk shows. So I think to call marketing all about advertising is a very limited view.
Do you think education could play a big role in changing this perception and making it better?
Yes, I really hope that those people who go to school and get an economics degree, and by the way, an economics degree is not necessarily one that's going to bring in a lot of marketing, because in pure classical economics, it's just sort of demand and supply, creating a price, and the product is fixed and all that. That's why we invented marketing, because it's much more dynamic and it's much more about explaining really what happens in the marketplace. So can you get more people to study not only marketing, by the way, because one of the things we fail to do is to teach the marketing people finance. Remember, a company is trying to make money, and the language they care about is really financial language. So what we're trying to do is give the language of finance to the marketers through our education.